Have you ever wondered why the greatest empire in history would ban its own guns? We are not talking about common armaments, but of creations so brutal, so dark, that Rome preferred to bury them in the silence of history. One of these weapons was so insane that the soldiers who used it went mad. Another burned alive even the allies, and there was even one that, when wielded, carried with it a curse. Rome has taken over the world with strategy and glory, but also with secrets. And among those secrets were weapons so powerful that they threatened the very heart of the empire. Weapons forged not only to kill, but to control, to frighten and silence. Today, you will find out what these 5 prohibited weapons were, and the scariest thing, why Rome wanted no one else to know about their existence, because, in the end, even the most powerful empires are afraid of what they have created with their own hands. If you're ready, let's open this forgotten chest of war. It wasn't a sword, not a spear. It was something more cruel. This weapon was called by the soldiers vox mortis, the voice of death. It was a type of war whistle made of bone, used by early Roman explorers in campaigns in the Germanic forests. Its sound, sharp and irregular, sounded like a human scream being cut in half. It was played before the invasion to break the enemy's spirit. But the effect was beyond what was imagined. Soldiers began to tremble, vomit, and even flee before combat. The problem? The same effect affected the Romans themselves. Many reported constant nightmares and bouts of madness. A centurion, after using it for weeks, was found laughing in front of corpses as if hearing voices. The Senate did not record this artifact in any military manual. When the first reports of mental breakdown reached Rome, this weapon was withdrawn from circulation. Today, archaeologists still find fragments of it, buried, broken, wrapped in rags, as if even her owners were afraid to touch her. Again, Rome forbade it, but his legend survives, and the sound that once silenced armies, it still echoes in those who dare to dig where the empire would rather forget. If this Roman secret gave you goosebumps, imagine what's yet to come. You've just heard something that history itself has tried to bury. If this content got you thinking, reciprocate with a simple gesture. Leave your like. It shows that you value stories that no one else has the courage to tell. And subscribe to the channel, because here, with each new video, the truth comes back to light, even though she was buried 2,000 years ago. Be one of those who do not accept the official version. Be part of those who have dug deeper. She looked ordinary, a handle of dark wood, a point of gleaming iron, but it hid the most insidious poison of the time, the essence of belladonna, hemlock, and crushed vipers. This spear was not created by Rome. It was smuggled from the campaigns in the East. Some generals, pressured by defeats and ambushes, accepted the help of foreign healers. The promise was simple: kill before the fight starts. With minimal slash, the enemy was down within minutes. But the soldiers began to notice something strange. The bodies were not buried, they were burned. Death was silent, without blood, without struggle. And this offended everything that Rome believed. The glory of victory was in the sweat, in the technique, in the strength of the arm, not in the hidden poison. The Senate, upon finding out, decreed every legionary who used a poisoned spear would lose his name in the records. He would be buried as a traitor, no hymns, without honor, no official grave. Few dared to disobey. Those who did disappeared from the reports. Some say they were executed in silence, in secret courts, where even the executioner's sword trembled. This weapon was effective, but it cost the soul of those who wielded it. He was not forged for battles, it was made for rituals. Heavy, with a black oak handle and a broad blade, the execution axe was reserved for a single mission: to silence traitors. It was used in evening ceremonies, away from the eyes of the people, in underground halls of the capital. The wielder wore a dark tunic, his face covered. The blade was said to bear inscriptions in Old Latin, not of war but of curse. phrases that sealed not only death, but the condemnation of memory. The blood of senators, generals, and deserters was shed for him, and soon something strange was realized. The executioners did not survive long. Some went crazy, others disappeared. A rumor grew among the soldiers. The axe did not only kill the body, it devoured the soul of anyone who used it. It was then that the Senate banned it, not out of mercy, but out of fear. An original example is said to have been sealed in a lead vault, buried beneath the ancient temple of Saturn. And to this day, on silent nights, some swear they hear a metallic sound coming from the depths, 3 dry beats, like a ritual that never ended. Rome did not destroy it, he just hid it, because even the empire, he has sins that he prefers not to confess. Rome learned to fear what it did not understand, and nothing was more unpredictable than portable Greek fire, a liquid substance that burned even underwater. Brought by Byzantine engineers under secret agreements, the compound was adapted into small, amphorae-like clay vessels. When they were launched, they exploded with a bluish flame that devoured men, wood, and even armor. In theory, it would be the ultimate weapon for sieges and forest battles. In practice, it was a nightmare. During a mission in the far reaches of Germania, a legionary stumbled upon one of these containers. The explosion was so intense that 3 entire rows of soldiers were engulfed in flames. No bodies remained, just the smell of burnt iron. The screams were heard for hours, and when reinforcements arrived, they found the field covered in soot that was still sparking days later. The Senate reacted with fury. All units that had the artifact were disbanded, the records burned, the survivors silenced. Using Greek fire came to be considered a war crime within the empire itself, because when even the fire refuses to obey orders, it is a sign that hell has escaped from man's hands. It wasn't created by blacksmiths. It was invented on the battlefield, under pressure, in the midst of panic. The chain of hooks was born as an improvisation, pieces of iron tied with ropes, each link ending in sharp points like animal claws. Soldiers threw it toward the enemy to tear off shields, pull legs, or simply tear flesh. But soon it became something more, inhuman. Once, in a campaign in Thrace, one of these currents got out of control. A legionnaire spun it so hard that it struck not only the enemy, but his own comrades. One soldier had his face torn off. Another was trapped between 2 horses dragged to death. The current did not obey. She killed everything she touched. There were reports that in certain legions prisoners were chained alive, just to test the weapon. The Senate, upon learning of the horror, officially classified the chain of hooks as an instrument of barbarism. It was banned, destroyed. The blacksmiths who produced it mysteriously disappeared. Rome wanted to see itself as civilized, and this weapon revealed the opposite, that behind the toga and the marble there was still fresh blood and stifled screams. Rome not only destroyed what it feared, she would turn it off. And in very rare cases, the Senate went further. It decreed absolute silence on certain weapons. No sculpture, no documents, no mention even on parchments, as if they had never existed. One such case was reported in a fragmentary form by a renegade scribe. He describes a weapon whose effects changed the behavior of men. After using it, soldiers became cold, distant, even hostile to their own legion brothers. It was suspected that this weapon was made with mercury compounds and rare metals, enough to cause slow neurological changes. Panic spread, not because it killed, but because it stole humanity without leaving a mark. It was then that the Senate decreed what is now called the interdictum tacitum, absolute silence. Any mention of the object would result in exile or death. The blacksmiths who created it were summoned and never seen again. Today, Scholars find suspicious gaps in military archives, pages torn out, reports interrupted, seals broken, as if something had been buried, along with those who tried to tell the truth. Rome didn't want you to know, and now that you know, the question is, what else has been silenced? For centuries, Rome presented itself to the world as a civilization of order, reason, and glory. But behind the marble columns and the speeches in the Senate, there was fear, an old fear, subtle, silent. Because these banned weapons were not banned morally, it wasn't compassion, it was not ethical, it was control. Rome understood that the real danger was not the external enemy, but unchecked power within its own ranks. A weapon in the wrong hands could create not a hero, but a new emperor, a new tyrant. And Rome had already been betrayed by ambitious generals. It had already been bled dry by senators who plotted in the shadows. Therefore, any technology, any artifact that threatened the balance of power, he was silenced. Because what is at stake is not only the war, it is who dictates the rules of it. The prohibitions were walls, barriers erected not to protect lives, but to protect the throne. And ironically, the more Rome hid, more revealed his greatest secret. The empire did not fear destruction. He was terrified of freedom, the freedom to think, to create, to challenge. Rome was the cradle of law, engineering, military strategy, but it was also the cradle of denial. By banning its most dangerous weapons, what the empire was really doing was protecting the narrative itself. She needed to appear fair. It needs to look strong. It needs to look noble. But the truth is that every silenced weapon, every secret decree, every buried artifact, it was a reflection of something Rome did not want to see in herself. These weapons were not banned because they were barbaric. They were banned because they revealed how barbaric Rome could be. The poisoned spear, the breach of honor, the chain hooks, the loss of dignity, the ritual acts, the acceptance of cruelty as justice, Greek fire, the inability to control one's power, and the decree of silence, the absolute fear of one's own conscience. Rome has not extinguished these weapons. She erased herself in them. And in doing so, he revealed what every civilization fears. That behind the glory, behind the monuments, behind the victories, there is always a shadow. And who doesn't face their own shadow, he is condemned to live in it. You may think that all of this is in the past, that these weapons, these decrees, these dark decisions belong to a distant Rome. But look around you. Today, perhaps our weapons are not spears or chains, but information, words, data, technologies, weapons that can build or destroy reputations, weapons that manipulate decisions, shape behaviors, silence truths. And just like Rome, we also ban them, not morally, but out of interest, because what is considered dangerous changes over time. Yesterday, it was a blade. Today, it's an idea. What Rome tried to hide, perhaps this is exactly what we are repeating now, choosing silence when the truth scares. What about you? Rome tried to bury these weapons, but he could not bury the truth, because what was forged in fear one day comes back to the surface. And now that you know, that also transforms you. May this history not be forgotten. May this ancient echo awaken something in you, because the real weapon, it is the knowledge that no one else has had the courage to reveal. Do you dare to ask, what are the prohibited weapons of your time? Do you dare to face the secrets your generation would rather not see? Because in the end, it is not the weapons that shape history. It is the silences that they provoke. You've just accessed content that has been hidden for centuries. If this revelation moved you, it didn't happen by chance. When truth rises from the ruins, it transforms, because knowledge changes everything. And if this video gave you something you've never seen before, so give back, Leave the like right now. It shows that this truth will not be buried again. And subscribe to the channel. Here, each forgotten story is a key that can awaken a new look at the world. It's not just about Rome. It's about digging up what has been silenced and never be silent again.